Welcome, everybody, to Generation Dan, where it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? My name is Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I am Dino the Genetic Marvel, your old curmudgeonly friend and or rival. I don't know. Whatever. That's up to you. I don't have to worry about it. And of course, our guest today is Faunt. Welcome, Elle. How are you?
Hi there. Hello. I am Faunt. I guess I would qualify as I tend to qualify myself as an Xennial. Or some people might say older millennial. I don't know. I relate to that cusp of stuff because I still have pretty distinct memories without the internet.
And that was a fun time, though. It was a fun time, right? Like the only bad part about the internet is when someone had enough charisma and confidence to tell you something that was complete bullshit. You're like, I have no way of challenging this person. He's so charismatic. And you know, it just always now you're like, give me a second. Yeah, you're wrong. There you go. It's on my phone. Suck it. So
right. I mean, I remember at that time, I would try to go check it against the encyclopedia, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Which is, it needs an entire course just to learn how to use it. That's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. Cole is in the comments already. He's talking about the Lakers. There you go. And he considers himself a millennial Z. So this is the thing is, we were talking about this previously, was the whole idea that when you have siblings, depending on where you fell, like I'm the youngest of 5 and my dad was the youngest of 9. So like my upbringing was very generationally displaced and influenced by others, but I was born in 1980. So I'm like, I'm at the end of Gen X, but at the same time, I had all older siblings. So it's like, yeah, so I identify predominantly with that.
By the same token, I was born in 94, which would make me like the very end of the millennial generation. I am the youngest child of 2 youngest children who had me at the age of 40. So I got pulled closer to the center, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, on Generation Dan, we see generations as a gradient and not hard numbers. Suck it. I don't know.
It's like light. Sometimes it's a wave, sometimes it's a point, whatever. It depends on who's observing you, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and for myself, I'm an only child. And so a lot of my socialization either happened with people who were in a full generation older than me, boomer generation, or just my peers.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things. Like my wife is an only child too, and so sometimes like I only learned this a few months ago. Was the whole idea was if you're gonna do something, you let people know, like, hey, I'm heading out, or hey, I'm going to be over in that room for a while. And that's a very much thing tied to having siblings. Whereas my wife will just leave the room and I'm like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going to go do something. And I'm like, you want to let me know or don't? You're just going to leave and just walk away. It's one of those weird things. Okay, you typed it Milan Z. So I don't know how I'm pronouncing it wrong there, Cole. You dirty bastard.
It's Milan Z.
It makes you sound French, Cole. So maybe you should do that. Are you guys live?
Yes, by the thing that says live in the top corner.
It's right here. This is live for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Get out. No, this is my house. I'm not going to leave my own house. That's ridiculous.
Milan Z.
King Orange. I don't speak Spanish, but I do know say hola. It's Mil NZ. You just
now we have to call it Milan Z.
Mil NZ. That sounds like boner pills or something.
I mean,
Mil NZ brought to you by AM/PM. Too much.
Right. I mean, like that's exactly what it's. Yeah, exactly. Like it's ZQuil, but for like. It's Wish.com version ZQuil. You're like Milan Z for those rough nights. You know,
Uh,
when you're budget conscious, but you still need to sleep. Millenzi. Yeah.
I miss like shitty jingles for stuff. You remember the one from like Pepto Bismol?
Listen, this is. I still think of plop plop fizz fizz. Oh, what a relief it is.
Yeah.
Or somebody brought out. Okay, I went to somebody. Okay, so being an old fuddy duddy as I am, I went to somebody's house and they're like, "Oh, I got heartburn." I'm like, "Oh, what do you have for your treating your heartburn?" And we started discussing the various tactics and methods to treat heartburn. And she's like, "Oh, I use Eno, but I use it in powder form, so I use too much." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, bubbly, 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 Eno." I'm like, "That's a hilarious jingle." The problem is my name being Dino. People were like, "Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly, Dino," and I'm like, "That's not funny. It's not.
oh
I'm not bubbly.
no.
I'm
And then
harsh and
meanwhile,
angry."
like in the modern day, we have shitty ones like avocados from Mexico, which sounds like it was made up on the spot. Like
It does, but it is catchy, right? Because it's
Well,
avocados from Mexico, and you're like, "Oh, I feel so cultured." You're like, it's not, but
okay, so here in LA, this is gonna loop back to my like, okay, I was raised by older people. So ever since the pandemic, I've developed this habit of actually listening to like radio news
nice,
on a
interesting.
station here in LA while driving
Mhm.
around. Because like my car stopped having Sirius XM at one point, so it was like whatever. And we have a jingle on the radio that's 1877 cars for kids.
oh
And
no,
like
not that shit.
you know
Don't
what I'm
you dare.
talking about, Atlas. It is the worst. Like it is a form of like sonic torture.
Yeah.
And like personally, also just one of my like very dislike triggers is like children singing to begin with. So like it is like I immediately have to change the channel if that jingle comes on.
Yeah, that I can imagine that. That's
That is understandable.
Cole's like, "What is a radio?" Thank you for that. That was nice. Arian's saying, "You got to calm down, bro. There's a lot of people commenting. Just relax. There's no." And then bye. I mean, who's the duh now? Interesting. The topic for today is
I'm a sexy mouse, duh.
That's what I mean. The topic for today is more so how pop culture has kind of it doesn't pop anymore. Let's be honest. I feel like it's very pocketed, right? Like in certain areas or certain groups or trends, like they'll know about it, but it doesn't. Pop culture used to be right across the board. Like every kid was like every young person was listening to rock and roll and making bad decisions, right? It's I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think we've been in like variations of the same cultural moment since like 2010.
Like it's a loop, as if we're in the Matrix. Let's
well,
calm
not
down,
so
there,
much
friend.
that, it's just because I was thinking about this. One, because we were talking about it before we were like coming up with the episode, but also like I think it comes down mostly to technology. Ever since the smartphone came out, it's all been stuff within the smartphone.
Yes.
Right? Video killed the radio star. That's a radio and a TV. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Versus this, like things that happen in pop culture all happen within things within the phone. Like, apps and social media is born and flames out and dies, right? I remember Yik Yak. Millennials sound off in the comments. But like, and Vine and things like that. But it just doesn't full on change the entirety of how we interact with culture the way that it used to. It's all these like little minuscule things. There's all that stuff with the like, we've lost water cooler talk because there's 80 gajillion streaming services and no one like, cut me off, please.
No,
I'm gonna like run this into the ground.
That's fine. It's the one thing like I remember in the age of yore, that's fine, a long time ago, but like the day after, like Fresh Prince was on Sunday nights or Thursday nights. I forget what night Fresh Prince was at, and the next day that's all we were talking about it. And I'm like, I wouldn't see it sometimes, and I'd be like, you were totally left out of the conversation. You had no idea what was happening. But you're like, that's the thing is we had 35 channels. You only have so many options, right? Like it was one of those. It was weird. But now you're like, there's so many people where a perfect example. This our social media used to be Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now it's Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky. I don't even know what Blue Sky is. And I'll be honest, is Atlas has sent me links to people who's like, hey, we're gonna have this person. I'm like, yeah, can you send me something not on Blue Sky? I have no idea what that is. And I'm like, if anything, it must be a trap. I don't know.
It's just less shitty
okay,
Twitter.
so it's really interesting because I was I guess technically I'm considered like a quote unquote blue sky elder because you still had to have the invites at the time I joined, which I think was like the very end of August 2023. And like, I guess if you joined before they had a media tab, you're like a blue sky elder, but it's a completely like sarcastic concept. Like nobody gives a shit. But yeah, and I had been like off X, off Twitter since the end of 2022. Like I think before Musk technically took it over. So like in the early time of Blue Sky, it was honestly the best description of it would have been like trans and very leftist Twitter.
That's fine.
And now it's like a lot more generalized, I think. It's just a lot more kind of like original Twitter or Xiter, shitter, whatever you want to call it. But like
Well,
so
this is like Atlas was always when we first started doing the show and talking and everything, he kept on trying to convince me to join Twitter. And I'm like, this is a cesspool of madness. I don't and that was like that was in 2000. I'm like, this is not healthy in any way, shape, or form. Like this is and then it's like, but the problem is you're like some people started using it for real content. And you're like, so there's actually some good information. And even in the past, Twitter was used for like Arab Spring and stuff like that. You're like, that was useful. And now you're like, I'm sorry, this is a nightmare of epic proportions, right? And now I'm doom scrolling TikTok like it's going out of style, and I'm like, I need to get rid of certain things or something. I don't know, because it's not good. It's not good anywhere you go. But I don't know. It's very confusing.
Like that kind of
right out of the gate, you got blocked. Good for you.
That speaks almost, I guess, to the topic of this particular show too, because it's like, in as much as it's very rare for us to have like unifying general pop culture moments, like at this point in time in the 2020s,
anymore,
like like the closest thing I think we've had recently was like the Barbie and Oppenheimer thing.
Barbenheimer,
the closest thing to that. But in as much as like we don't entirely have that anymore, we also aren't in the same era of like being on all the same social media places anymore. Like I never adopted TikTok.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, but that's the thing is each of them have their own nuances and stuff like that. But it's just so much, right? Tarun, we're good, buddy. How are you doing? Love from Asia, and we love Asia as well. That sounded weird, but you know what I mean. Meep. You guys need to go to McDonald's tonight. I mean, I would love to go to McDonald's. A couple weeks ago, we were being bad and I smoked a joint. And I convinced my wife to order McDonald's at like 9:00 at night. And we're trying to be healthy. So, Elle,
I was like, that doesn't sound bad necessarily.
No, well, okay. So Elle, so you understand, I used to be 250 pounds, or I used to be 250. I used to be 500 pounds. I've lost 250 pounds. So I'm now technically the size of one person, still fat, but one person. So, old habits die hard. So I convinced my wife to order McDonald's, and we both have felt like shit ever since. So it's like, just trying to get through things. But yeah, so going to McDonald's at night, always.
I had my first, like, I have actual heartburn moment yesterday.
Oh no.
We went to a Thai restaurant for my sister's birthday lunch, and I got this dish that was like fried papaya, just to give it a shot. I was like, this is really good. And then Katie and I later went to the movies with friends of ours, and then went to dinner after, and I was like, I am just queasy the entire time. And I got back home, I'm like, I had heartburn the entire time. And she's like, yeah, you ate an entire plate of fried food, you idiot. You're not 16 anymore. Fuck.
Like, there's a whole thing. What my wife and I started eating dinner. So we try and stick to like one meal a day or like a 4-hour window for our eating per day, and that's
Mhm.
you know, because it helps us focus on a caloric deficit, and also too at nighttime no heartburn, right? So we eat dinner at around like 4 or 5 o'clock, and then we try and stop there. Uh, and yeah, I explained that to one person. They're like, "Wait, you don't get heartburn anymore?" I'm like, I don't even snore anymore." Which when I
Oh,
was 500 pounds, it was like a army of chainsaw attacking each other was how it sounded when I slept. Like it was a lot. You were not
okay.
sleeping beside me.
I'm putting Army of Chainsaws on my band name list. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
Nice.
but yeah, it's like one of those things where you make those changes, but then like I forget, there was Sauter, Brian Sauter, something Sauter. He did a joke where he's like, I went to the doctor and the doctor was like, yeah, well, you're now 35. You can't eat late and go to sleep. You're not allowed anymore because it might kill you. And you're like, bro, that's true though.
Not even that's not good for you. It might kill you.
It might kill you. Yeah. Getting old. It's awesome. It's one of those things.
Fun times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've also been thinking about just like the unifying cultural moments thing, like ever since David Lynch died. Like,
Oh,
January was just such shit for LA guys. Like, in
That's fair.
yeah.
between like
Entire city was on
surprise-
fire. David Lynch died. Yeah, it's
yeah, and I've just been thinking about that and like thinking about the fact that he was really like in as much as like John Waters is similar, like he really was like weirdos felt represented very much by the art he made, and it was a really huge deal. And it's hard to even think about like who will come along in like the younger generations right now who,
I
like, yeah.
I did not know David Lynch had passed away, and I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" And I just googled it. And I'm like, "Oh my god, David Lynch passed away!" You're like, "Oh,
yeah.
damn it!"
All
Yeah,
weirdos have left is Werner Herzog. What are we gonna do with
I
ourselves?
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but Warner Herzog is like top tier weirdo, right? Like, I
Yes.
feel like he's a weirdo that everyone can embrace because he's still very principled, and I'm like, I enjoy his hate. It's very
There's
you know?
something about that slow German accent that really just
But
cuts to the core.
but it comes across as like German and British and something else, and you're just like, where is this guy from? Like, I don't understand. John, we don't have opinions on you, but hey,
I am not
I hope you have a
German.
great day.
I am not Holy Roman Empire. I am Europe. I was Britannia from
I am
before
Herzog,
Britannia
hear
was
me.
Britannia.
Yeah, like it's one of those crazy
I
things.
can't keep it up for too long.
Well, yeah, nothing can kill me. I've seen it. I mean, yeah, that's because you just turned 30, bro. You're gonna see. You're gonna see in a couple days. Cole is another YouTuber that we do content with as well, and at the same time, like he keeps on. So he's the oldest of like 6 siblings, and so he identifies with them. But at the same time, like I'm 15 years older than him, and I will make fun of him as me being old. He's like, we're basically the same age. I'm like, we're not. I'm gonna need a cane soon or a walker because I'm,
Yeah, and even funnier is that Cole and I were born in the same year.
Yeah,
and we have like 2 completely different worldview. Oldest sibling, youngest sibling. His parents had him young. My parents had me old. So like, yeah,
it's one of those things that works. I
bet it does depend on your experience with that a lot too, because I hear a lot of, I guess, like general, like, I don't know, like mainstream media talk about the fact that like Gen Z like act very old people-ish, and there's some reasoning in there of like because they were socialized as young adults during the pandemic a lot. I don't know. Have you heard anything about that?
Could be. I mean, like the one thing that they're forgetting is that old people fuck a lot.
A lot. Hey, highest STD rates in the country are old people.
Are in nursing homes. Yeah.
Old people are disgusting.
Like, oh, they act like old people. No, they don't act like old people.
No.
That's true.
Not in that way, anyway.
I don't know if you guys have seen what's his name? Ted Danson did a show recently about him going undercover into an old age home, and like seeing how everything works, and you're just like, bro, old people are it's kind of like being in high school, but then having your own money and an opinion and lawyers. So you're like, you're much worse to deal with. Like it's 100%. There's like, oh, you want to go? I will see you in court. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. This is a lot. This is too much. What's up, Joey? Yeah. Cole always brags about this. He attended his mom's high school graduation. So he brought her to his high school graduation. At the same time, he was homeschooled. So I don't know how that works, but that's fine. That's
see what I mean. Yeah.
Let's be honest, no one's looking up STD rates for people ready to bro.
I mean,
they're out of control.
I have parents who work in medicine, like this is, or worked in medicine when they were still working, but like, which is a shame because both of my parents also seem to have become asexual in their old age. Which, you know, come on, mom and dad, get out there.
Well, hold on, but listen, let's be honest though. Which
my parents
would
are
you?
Divorced now. I should probably say that.
Yeah, that's a key component there. But which would you prefer? Your parents getting old and then out there fucking, or them becoming asexual? Because I'll tell you, those two are polar opposites in dealing with people.
I'm at least okay if they were like the counter on Toontown when you go to Disneyland, where that number is going up over and over and over again. I think I would prefer that because I only need to be creeped out once versus when they're like asexual and sad, it's just like a slow decay. Like, come on, go out with a bang, literally. You know?
Can you imagine though? Like, yeah, no, that
whole
idea.
Glad my parents don't watch this show.
I mean, they might.
My 104-year-old step grandfather keeps outliving his girlfriends. Like that's so funny. That's just the level of like, okay, you made it to that level. Like, good for you, bro. You know.
Okay, wait. So the half your age plus 7.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
The youngest he can date is 59 before it's creepy.
And he hasn't dated anybody that young. Like they've been comparably around his age group. So like, yeah.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. Is like my immediate mind just went to the fact that he's like, I'm out here fucking women to death in my senior years, and it's like, oh my god, like that is a lot to unpack. That's wow. That's at 104. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
that guy is a specimen.
Like, I mean, I cannot speak to like the actual sexual activity going on. I don't pry about that. That would be weird. But like, yeah, just on the level of like the partners keep dying and he's still alive. Like,
yeah,
cool.
Like,
good for you, I guess.
Well, like it's one of those things where you're like, kind of like, it's, I don't know if you would say admirable, but like, you're like, good for you for just keep on keeping on, I guess. But like, that's gotta be a traumatic thing, right? Because like, let's be honest, we're, you know, who knows what's going on. As you said, you don't know, but like, even just as having companions, you're like, I outlived another one. You're like, fuck, it's gotta be brutal.
I mean, I even watch, you know, just boomer aged folks being in a circle of friends who like, they keep being the one who survives like a lot of their friends passing away, even folks younger than them. And it's not necessarily a fun experience, but yeah.
Of course not. I mean, like, what's very strange is like, in my mom's case, she's the youngest of 5. Yeah. The only person left is the oldest one. So it's the oldest one and the youngest one are still alive, and the 3 in the middle are gone. Damn. And then in my dad's case, almost all of them are still alive. Only one of them died, but he was also very, very corpulent and massive coronary. Sorry, Uncle Bill.
What does corpulent mean?
Fat.
Oh, when did you say fat? Obese.
It was funny.
Circular. He was one shape, round.
Yes.
That's
he was a nice guy. Uncle Bill was a good dude. Just sorry.
Listen, you got to understand the rules used to be the fatter you were, the nicer you had to be. That's why when I've lost the weight, now I'm just mean and curmudgeonly constantly, right? It's not just on my face. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you're walking around in public going, socks.
That is factual. That does happen. Yeah.
Upside down question mark.
So pop culture. We were going to talk
Yeah.
about pop culture moments and the unifying things and how we don't entirely have that anymore.
Do you think it changes like the impact of pop culture as you age, or do you just think that they aren't happening as often?
I wonder if it's both.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it's both. But then, because I definitely know personally, it's just like as I've gotten older, like the subculture and like punk and goth stuff and things like that, like really defined me when I was like up through my 20s. But just as I've gotten older, like you kind of have less time and energy to really pay as much attention to it. So I definitely think that's like one factor. But I also just feel like things shifting from being like back to the David Lynch thing, who, he really made art, and things shifting from like making art to making this culture of making content and living in this like content generation machine kind of culture.
Oh yeah. Well, it's we're down to what 15 seconds of attention span, and then good luck. It's who knows what might happen, right? Middle children are pretty weak. The oldest raises the kids, the youngest stays with parents as they start. I mean, it's a good deal. That's fine. It's one of those things. I don't like. I've heard people talk about pop culture stuff that they think is important, and I just I listen in, and I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't seem relevant to anything. But then you're kind of going like, it's just one of those things, right? Like it's I think there can be weight, or at least you can attribute some weight to the idea of like, as you get older, like you said, you don't have the energy of the time, and you're just like, I don't care. I just want to go do my own thing, right?
Yeah. You get heartburn from stupid shit.
You get heartburn just from looking at the wrong food very soon. Yeah. You're just like, oh damn it, that's gonna be a long night now. I smelled it.
Okay, so like generations used to be measured in experiences.
True.
In living memory, at least, the first generation that was talked about in any sort of capacity or like large capacity was the Lost Generation, who were the folks who came back from World War I and into the Roaring 20s, where they're like, great, I don't have a job and I have to start bootlegging. And then you have the Greatest Generation, who were like the people who were principally involved fighting in World War II.
Right.
The Silent Generation doesn't really get a thing like that, like a particular experience or moment that defines them. The Boomers have Woodstock. The Gen X also doesn't get one of those.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, so I wanted to jump in really quick. So the Silent Generation thing, the only thing I could think of is maybe them being kids who lived through the Depression, because I feel like maybe some that could define, some of them.
Yeah.
And then the Gen X thing, I always think of like if you watch the Challenger blow up in school, like that's the thing I'm always told.
Yeah.
Which is funny because for millennials, it's 9/11 while you were in school. That's how I define being a millennial. If you remember them wheeling in the TVs to be like, it's a moment in history, just in time for the second plane to hit, you're a millennial.
I still remember how ridiculous that day was. Okay, hold on. Yes. So this is Joey said, I think the reason pop culture is dead is because no one is original anymore. 8 of 10 highest earning movies last year were sequels, for example. That is a fair point. 15 seconds is a long time. I don't care what my ex says.
No, but yeah, like there's the whole sequel existing IP thing that Hollywood just started churning out, and there's, it goes back to the content culture thing, and people expecting to, even if they had something really good to say, like expecting it to kind of break it up into these bite-sized things as well.
Definitely. So there's no delay in finding out stuff. Also a factor. So no more moments. Everything is right all the time. It's just, like there. Oh, Cole, I've drank water fast and got heartburn before. I mean that also will happen. Gen X has Woodstock 99, but Woodstock 99 was a sequel. So that if anything, like Gen X just has the same thing over again. It doesn't have anything original. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I would think Gen X would have Woodstock 94 because that was the really cool ass one where like, yeah, Nine Inch Nails and like a bunch of those like iconic Lollapalooza bands also play like that. As an Xennial, like that's the big one I remember that like really got me into a lot of those bands, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe
well,
that, but it was still a sequel, obviously. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel kind of attacked on that. You know, I'm like, I'm just realizing that it's like, yeah, a lot of the Gen X stuff is just the sequel to Boomers, and you're like most sequels, not as good. A little frustrating. You kind of want to flush it down the toilet, but you can't.
Okay, but here's one thing I really want to bring up on this show because maybe we'll have opinions on this, but like, so there's this like consensus idea that like, oh, nobody listens to like Gen X, right? Like Gen X like aren't listened to or taken seriously or whatever. But let me offer this as somebody who's kind of like a bridge between the two. Were millennials ever listened to besides being called avocado toast like cucks who can't amass generational wealth and who want participation trophies? Were millennials
and we didn't
ever
ask for anyway.
Listen,
Right.
as a Gen Xer who has owned homes, I mean, yeah, it is quite a nice thing to just be like, oh yeah, I've had homes. It's not a big deal. It's just you know. So yeah, that is a fair thing. That is fair.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is reasonable.
I appreciate you, Alphonse. That's
yeah. Didn't Gen X have Live Aid? That's yeah, Live Aid would have been a thing.
Live Aid would have been when like boomers were kind of like youngish people though, was it? Because that was like in the middle of the 80s. So Gen X would have been like teenagers. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I think the Challenger like defines that better because for
it was
you
July
guys,
13th,
wasn't it supposed to
1985.
be like, ooh, let's watch this rocket take off. It's cool. Oh shit. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Well. So okay. Well, number one, Live Aid was in 1985, so it would have been like just as like I would have been 5 years old, but and also too, it was more so like European Gen X as opposed to North American. North American, and definitely probably Woodstock's 94, Lollapalooza, Lilith Fair. Those are all pretty, yeah, but it was. Like where, but that's the real question is where has it all gone, right? Because like even now I know we Victoria got tickets for who the Black Parade, they're doing a tour,
Yeah,
that album, they're doing a tour of that album with a whole bunch of other stuff from my childhood or youth, and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. At the same time, I'm hoping they have chairs, you know. It's
Dino's never been 5 years old. You were born a 37-year-old man. Yes,
that's kind of accurate. Like, yeah.
No, at this point in time, like over the since COVID, if I'm paying to go to a concert, especially since prices have gone up, I absolutely have the thought process of like, can I fucking sit down? Because there's a particular venue here in LA that like is a giant general admission venue in Hollywood, and like
hard pass.
Is it the
I'm
Hollywood
just like,
Bowl? No.
oh man, no, the Palladium, and like a lot of bands I like go there, and also like, you know, the sound is like, the sound situation there is not my favorite either, but like, yeah, it's basically like a full, unless you get like ADA, it's like a full standing room only like giant venue. And even like late 2010s pre-pandemic, I was like, I'm getting a little up there for that, because I have the ability to like just take metro there and not have to like handle parking there, which is nice. But by the time I do all that back and forth and like do several hours of standing at that venue, I'm just like, oh man, receiving. Yeah.
My wife confirmed there are chairs for sure. You know, good. That's. Whew. I was a little scared there for a second, bro. People are paying $350 to sit in the upper deck to see Morgan freaking Wheeling. I mean, yeah. See, we had my wife wanted to go see Keen. That's a person, right? Yeah, okay. So we went, and there were seated ones, but we got an upper level one, which was just an open area. And I was like, I'm going to die. Like I survived it, but at the same time, man, standing for a couple hours. Yeah, that is not, yeah, I don't, it's also too, like, I'm at a point where people are like, hey, do you want to go to this? And I'm like, what's the parking like? Do I have to pay for parking? If I have to pay for parking, I don't know if I'm going to go. And also, if I have to park somewhere
I have
else,
done some dumb shit to avoid paying for parking, like the going back through on foot, getting a new ticket, the like going up behind the car who's leaving in front of you and staying on their tails, so the little arm thing thinks you're a garbage truck or a limousine or something, so the arm never comes down and you never pay. Just I've done some dumb shit.
yeah,
I hate paying for parking.
Yeah. Listen, I had this conversation with somebody else. Was the whole idea? It's like, so not only do my taxes pay for roads, but now you're going to charge me to use said road that my taxes paid for. Yeah, I have a serious problem with that. And I'm officially.
When you get to Cleveland, thinking of doing a hotel conference room so the after party, go immediately upstairs. Joey, spring break. Yeah, I get a week off because I'm a teacher. Pay for parking is a war crime, kind of. Yeah.
But this is the thing.
It also
right?
just means like more public transit, so I don't have to like Elle was saying, I don't have to pay like park in the first place. It's nice.
This is the thing, like, and this has happened up here where it's like there's you could take transit, great, but then it's like we had Taylor Swift here a while ago, and if you went down to Union Station, which is the kind of main hub for transit, like Penn Station in New York, that kind of thing.
Yeah. 7th Street in LA. Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. You guys, you always complain about the transit, so I assume there's nothing central in LA. Anyway.
It's me. I complain about everything.
So, but like when you went to look at, they showed pictures of Union Station, people trying to get on the subway after the Taylor Swift concert, and you're like, oh, I would not under any circumstances be in that environment. You're like, that's just reckless, and that's, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. It's one of those things.
Is do they call Canadian Taylor Swift fans Swifties or?
I wouldn't know, sir. I would not know. It's
that's funny. Yeah, and I also think about, as far as like being exennial, like I think about the prevalence of like MTV culture and
good one.
Like I was just talking to some people on Blue Sky about this as far as like being an LGBTQ exennial. I distinctly remember the moment when they showed, I think it was the Real World San Francisco, and there was this guy named Pedro who was one of the first people really publicly depicted, and he died of AIDS related complications. And like it was, I feel like that was a huge moment for like that survivor generation that was like young exennial who really came after essentially the people who were genocided by early HIV AIDS before they started, getting really serious about it. And
thanks, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, seriously. And like that was such a giant moment for me as well. And also just remembering those like peak 90s like MTV stuff, Liquid Television and Beavis and Butthead and Dark and all that.
Well, that was the thing. Like I remember when like music videos were getting released and it was like watching a movie, like it was a premiere, like it was a big deal. And now like if somebody sends me a video of like a music video, I'm like, are you for real? That still exists? And also I'm like, this isn't music. It's not, I'm like, I can't even handle it because I'm just like, there's no words. There's no emotion here. I don't know what's happening. I like the beat, but that's all I got.
All this sounds the same. But I guess for like, okay, here's the translator for Gen Z and younger. The release of music videos used to be like how it's obligatory to be on certain social media platforms now, or to like do a barrage of like TikTok releases now when you come out with a big like album or EP or something like that. It's hard to even compare it anymore because people just release music completely differently. I mean, my partner is a musician, and like you have to incrementalize it out so differently now, and like everything's like a 3 or 4 set EP, and then maybe you can do a full length album, and it's really different now. But like, yeah, the music video thing used to be obligatory, and it was amazing. It was cinematic. Like those directors were a huge inspiration for me as well. Like,
for everybody. Well, that was the whole. I do remember the joke though, whereas like every hip hop artist had their videos filmed on the inside of what looked like a cheese grater because it was all shiny and metal. And like there's a meme for it, and I'm like, it's painfully accurate.
Are you talking about like the Y2K era of hip hop? Yeah, that was definitely like and some pop people. Like
Victoria's
that was definitely an aesthetic.
I remember
that Patton Oswalt bit where he talks about like 80s hair metal bands, and it's like they're just in a factory miles away from the hot women, nowhere near any hot women, and in a factory that just manufactures sparks for some reason.
That's right. That's all they do.
They're sweaty and they're rocking out, and like
that's right. Yeah.
The
rock doesn't go where the women are. The women come where the rock is. No, it's fine. Like up here. Okay, so this is also too like we had fashion television. Every, I believe it was Saturday afternoons would play. And it was awesome though, because like number one, as a young person, fashion TV would have video of runway models going and all sorts of stuff. You might see a nipple. It was exciting as a young person, but it was great. I still remember Madonna coming out at a fashion show just wearing suspenders, but they were reversed. So the cross went across the front, and you're just like, there you go. Fashion. And I'm like, I love fashion. This is great. But
I think 15 years later, the entire country shat its pants when we saw Janet Jackson's nipple for half a second.
We didn't even see her nipple. We saw a star. It was bullshit.
Yep.
Okay.
Very true. Very true.
Victoria, I'm going to go to Taylor Swift. Seems like a great place to pick up emotionally unavailable women. I mean, you might get married, sir. You might get married. No, but that's like, even now, today somebody sent me a video of what a Creed song should actually sound like, because I forget which song it was, but he's on like a stone and there's no one around him, so technically it should just be his vocals, and then it swings to the guitars, and you're like, oh, that's accurate but hilarious and mean a little bit. But
okay,
I think I saw something like that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think I saw something like that where it's the I would walk 1,000 miles, and she's like sitting on the piano, or like sitting playing the piano. It's on the back of a truck and it's driving. So like it's like her singing, but like you hear traffic sounds in the background and like horns honking and stuff instead of the actual.
Get off the road! Yeah,
I love shit like that.
Yeah. No,
anyway, continue.
No, that kind of pipelines into this interesting thing that I'm seeing where I am seeing Gen Z sometimes conflate like the grunge era with Y2K, and there's like a huge Y2K revival, and oh my fucking god, like Ed Hardy and Affliction t-shirts are coming back, and I can't stand it because I hated all that shit at the time. But like,
I'm seeing my students wear it. It's
it's interesting to like see Gen Z like mash it all together, but it's a very and I'm not trying to like shit talk Gen Z in general, because I think
no, you're allowed to. Feel free. They can't do anything to you.
There's good stuff going on with Gen Z, but there's a lot of like, okay, I don't know about that stuff going on with Gen Z as well. And they have this attitude of kind of like, because they have like every nostalgia era to like mishmash together, like it's this kind of like superficial engagement with it. So like it doesn't matter that like Y2K cutesy like shiny mesh t-shirts had nothing to do with like our ripped jeans and flannels that we wore during grunge. Like you can wear it all together, you know?
Yeah.
Or you can mix and match it, or you can wear like an 80s members only jacket on top of like your 90s wide leg pants, something like,
Yeah, no, that's I feel like that is also something that as old as an old person like that, I look at that and I'm like, those aren't even from the right generation together. Like, what do you what you're just a mixy matchy with everything? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, I mean, yeah, I guess you're allowed to do that. Whatever, right? Jason says, don't you think it's sad that we as humans are less in reality and more stuck in social media? And is it 100%? Like that. I had to explain this to somebody a while ago where I was like, you're pretending like your life only exists in those highlight reels, which I'm like, listen, the highlight reels are awesome, but life in general is quite boring. It's that whole idea where you're like, hey, you being true to yourself, you have to be able to embrace or be comforted by the boring so that when those peak highlight moments happen, you can enjoy them to their fullest. But like, it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, should we be so involved on the internet and social media and thinking about this stuff? No. But also, there's always been a addictive characteristic where people will become infatuated with whatever it is that they can fill their time with, right? There are people who were obsessed with soap operas. There are people who are obsessed with music, film, whatever you want, clothing. And there's so much of it out there that you're going like, it's more so just a person finding their own balance. Aaron, yes, I'm glad you got this joke. It only took 46 minutes for somebody to put it out. Video killed the radio star and internet killed the video star. Ta-da! I am once again relevant. That's fine. Well, this is going to be challenging. Well, I believe in you, look, sir.
Don't worry. Know I'm an attractive young man.
Yeah.
Who gets heartburn. But,
just imagine what he ate or just looked at to get the heartburn. That's one of those things. I saw a lady come into the federal building with a bonnet on her head and had Louis Vuitton logos on it. I mean,
like
fancy
fashion in general is just something that is like, you have the nostalgia cycle and then like new things that happen that make something completely new. So like I was saying, where like they're engaging with something on a surface level, eventually it'll just become its own thing. Yeah. And then 20 years from now, there will be, 2020's core or whatever. Because like I see a lot of kids wearing pajama bottoms to school as like just their pants. And I know that came out of COVID. There is
absolutely
no way.
No. That existed when I was going to college. People were doing that. That was like
college. I'm talking about in high school where they're like, not school appropriate. But so many kids were doing it. They're like, oh, forget it. Fine. I don't care. Just wear your shorts, please.
Yeah. Like, look, in my generation, people wore snaps, right? To school, where it's just like track pants, but they had snaps all the way down the side. So it was traditional that you would grab somebody's pants and rip them right off their body, because that's hilarious. And I told a story here a few months ago where I saw a guy, I thought he was wearing snaps in school, and so I grabbed his pants and just ripped them off of him. They were not snaps; they were just pants. I'm a big guy. He was pretty small. And I was like, ha, gotcha. And he was like, why would you rip my pants off? And I'm like, oh, I thought there was
congratulations. You just assaulted somebody.
Yeah. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Yeah. And it was, where did you go to school? New York City in the 70s? I mean, no, it was a place called Brampton. It's a suburb of Toronto. And it was, in the 90s.
Attractive young man. Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, so like I do this assignment with my creative writing kids once a semester where I'm like, I'm going to leave and have someone cover my room. You guys have a whole class period. Write as many roast jokes about me as you can. So some highlights include, you're the only male English teacher I know who looks like he's pregnant. Mwah.
I mean, that is top tier. Yeah.
Your hair looks like the McDonald's logo.
I mean, in this day and age, you could probably get money for getting a tattoo of it, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm Bolden.
Oh, so I was trying to provide a description of myself in on a website I signed up to try and get some extra like acting work and voiceover stuff. And it was like, do you have salt and pepper hair, or are you bald? And I'm like,
Both.
Both? I'm like, technically, I still have some hair here. Like, you can't see it, but it's there. And then the rest is all salt and pepper. So I'm like, and my wife's like, you're not really bald. You're like baldish. And I'm like, that's not helping. It's not helping the situation, honey. So, but
like Joey said, when I was in college, people did that. Yes, if you lived on campus, right?
No.
I'm talking in high school with the dress codes, with the not school appropriate to have Paul Frank on your pants. But
man, okay, I have to ask Atlas because I haven't, had much contact with like high school students in a while, but are they still policing like the spaghetti strap tank tops and shit like that?
Good question.
I
They were
haven't
so
seen that.
hardcore about that when I was in high school.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember that too. I haven't seen much of that recently. The only like policing was at first the pajama bottoms, then they gave up because too many people were doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
The other thing was Crocs, but they were doing it for like a safety reason. Like
That's because they're a travesty for society. That's
well, there's that, but also
I agree with that. But Gen Z fucking loves Crocs.
That's a problem.
But also like hardwood floor, not hardwood, but like linoleum, right? It's slippery, right?
It's
like only takes one kid to. I get the reason they did that. That's understandable.
Look, wearing Crocs at home to get the mail, very reasonable, very comfortable. I'm with you. Absolutely. You don't wear slippers to work. How dare you wear Crocs outside your house? Just absolutely not.
It is not demure. It is not mindful.
Oh.
God, I can't wait for that to disappear. They're still saying that, by the way.
Have you seen there are little things like doodads you can attach to your Crocs, and one of them is like just toes sticking up, and I'm like, like, what is wrong with you? Like, and people are like, it's like my toes are out there, and I'm like, bro, you need a doctor.
Video of the face I made because like mild dry heave.
It's honestly, we should do another roast. I think we should. I quite enjoyed writing those jokes. Would love to do that again.
I like that you're encouraging your students to write comedy. Like 2 thumbs up to that. Get that habit started young.
Well, there's that, and then the school was like, maybe you could teach a stand. I'm like, no, the fuck, I'm not.
You don't want to do that.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But like, I'll like put a little in there.
You know what you might be able to do?
Like a full.
You should see if you can bring Mary in, Mary Kennedy, to do like a one day course, and that way, like, she can make some bank, and you could be like, hey,
that would
I'm
nice.
funny, but she's an educator. It might.
I should hook her up with the theater teacher because
why not?
Like my credential doesn't include theater. I can teach speech, but not theater.
I feel like comedy is more speech than theater.
I agree.
Right?
But
improv is more theater than speech, kind of thing.
There's one kid who's a senior who's like, I want to try it, and I don't have her for any classes.
Yeah,
and I was like, here's a list of open mics. Good luck. And we'll see how that goes.
Is she funny? Like, have you had a conversation with her? Like, is she? Because like, I'm funnier in a conversation than I am on stage. Like, I'm trying to bridge that gap because I
haven't seen her do it, but she's a very good conversationalist and very funny.
That's a big help. There's a big help. Yeah. I mean, it's a very that's the one thing is like, as I grow older, I am finding that there are certain things that unify us. So humor, definitely. Horror, definitely. Food, predominantly. Food unifies everyone, period. But also,
for evidence of that, check out Hammered in Cheese every Saturday.
Yeah, every Saturday at 8:30.
Cooking show with Cole.
Yeah. Yesterday we had guests on that talked almost the entire episode. It was a weird experience because usually I'm the one who doesn't shut up. So, and then I was just like, I just keep talking. I don't know what to do. And just chimed in every once in a while. But it's I don't know. I feel like hilariously though, the weird pop culture things that are starting to come up as my friend group gets older, like stuff like tips for heartburn. That's a whole entire conversation, like an entire evening of discussion of options and home remedies of what you can use, right? But then it's like I've never been to a rave because I don't think, I'll be honest with you, for my entire life, I've never assumed that a 500-pound man is a good person to be at a rave. That's just my opinion. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I didn't feel welcome there. But now that I'm smaller, I'm like, I kind of want to go, but then I'm like, I'm also an old man. I don't think that's going to be okay with everyone. I feel like, because like Elle, I was telling everyone, I went to a rap party with a bunch of young people and we went to
Yeah.
a university bar. I walked in and I was like, oh, I shouldn't be allowed in here. This is inappropriate. This is not something that's okay.
I
But
mean,
I don't know.
okay, that's fair. On the other hand, I have been to like quite a few like festivals or large concerts in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, this person is clearly just doing whatever they want and they're older than me. Okay, so my partner and I flew to the Denver area for, it was like around my 40th birthday, I think. And we went to see a band we really like, 9 Inch Nails. And we went
Love it.
to Red Rock, which I'd also never been to as a concert venue. And I'd heard it was really cool and
Cool.
interesting, worth visiting. And we saw the concert there. And like, we were still next to like the couple who like wouldn't stop making out with each other. And they were older than us. Like,
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow.
like I'm like, there can still be like the wangly fucking drug dealer at festivals who's like somehow in your personal space bubble, even though there's like a giant field of people like 3 feet away. Like
Yeah.
you can go to a rave in your 40s. That's my
Also,
mentality.
to add on top of
Yeah.
that, so
I appreciate that
all of
greatly,
the
Val.
English
Really
teachers
good.
in our department have showed up to work hungover at least once.
I think that's mandatory
One
for
of the-
teachers, though.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
one of them, she's like this this older. She's like in her 40s. She's a lesbian. And the one time she did it, I was like, "What happened?" And she goes, "I went to dinner with a bunch of retirees. So it's like a retired judge and a retired superintendent, and
Right.
they would not stop drinking because
Yeah.
they didn't have to be at work the next morning. And I tried to keep up with them, and here we are." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, that's awesome."
Yeah.
That-
Fuck it.
yeah,
Age is just a number. Like
yeah,
you
baby.
don't have to care about what people. That's what midlife crises are for, literally.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
Yeah,
I
and it
appreciate
doesn't
that, Al.
have to be
I think I
like-
may my dream is not dead thanks to what you said. I may still
Yeah.
go. I'm
There's a
also
way
too a
to
fan of
like
nationals.
do the Murtaugh list without doing the Murtaugh list, right? Like you can like do it at your own pace. Don't feel the need to catch up to like, oh, I need to do this amount of drugs, have this amount of drinks, go to these places. It's
I mean,
I don't have to be at work the next morning because I'm retired. Let's have some fun with that. Like
what's up, Marco? It's
Marco.
that's the one of those things where it's just like I you know that perspective of you're only as young as you feel, and you're like, that's fine. I wake up and I feel like I'm 90. That's a problem. I mean, but by the end of the day, I'm like, I'm a solid 40. That's all. I'll figure it out. You know, but
I think this is a good question to end the episode with is because I've asked this to my parents who are both in their 70s. When you're not looking at yourself in the mirror and are not painfully aware of your age, what is the age you see yourself as?
Ooh. I mean,
that's a really tough one.
honestly, 35. Like I'm like
35.
I'm a grown ass man, but I still got a lot in me. I'm just you know, but
Cole
that's
says 15
thankfully
comments.
Cole says 15. That's accurate. Yeah, that's
You know, okay, this is tough to answer because if I gave an answer like, oh, in my 20s somewhere, which like physically there are some days where I'm like, maybe I feel like 28, 30 today. You
Yeah.
know, I've been really active my whole life and tried to like, you know, be into fitness and take care of my body and like have a dance and yoga practice and stuff like that. But like, I also like my 20s were like mentally miserable. And I actually feel better than that now.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've not only matured mentally as a person, but I have more of a toolkit to deal with like the awful mental health that I had at that time. So like that's a really tough answer. for me. Like, yeah, maybe my early 30s or something like that.
See, that's the thing is like I feel better. Like even I told my wife this, like after having lost the weight and like still working towards that and changing my life so it's more physically active and more health conscious. It's like I feel more like myself now than I have in like 20 plus years, right? So and that's a totally reasonable point out, was that the idea where it's like, oh, I feel better mentally now than I ever have, but like it's kind of placing those two where they overlap, right? But yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
I feel like mid 30s is like I'm an adult, I can still do stuff. At the same time, I kind of got a better figuring out of how I work as well, right? That's fair.
Both my parents said, like, my dad said 26 specifically, and my mom said 18, which is interesting. And then
Weird.
with me, I think like after college, I had a very bad time, and I think after that was when I started to be on the upswing as a person. So I think because I would say 24, 25. My brother-in-law said 18, and my sister said 25. So it's all over the spectrum of like, aside from the fact that like you look at yourself in the mirror, or you are around, say, an age group of kids who forces you to be the older one because you're their teacher, right? I definitely behave like an older person at work than I do outside of work, which is why whenever we're on like summer break or something, I immediately default to Gremlin, like within 3 days or so, where I'm like, all right, I don't have to lesson plan. Time for me to get stupid. So, yeah.
Oh, I love this. Whoa, your whole life isn't supposed to be mentally awful? No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It does get better.
Yeah. Believe it or not. Actually, that's one of the things I think Gen Z is doing better is like prioritizing mental health care.
Oh yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is we finally realized that your mental health and your physical health equally as important. 100%. And if anything, your mental health might be more important for the simple fact that if your body fails you, your mind is still there. So, that's 100% accurate. I do like that. Yeah. That's good.
So for the folks out there, go to therapy. And also, I'm curious to see what's the age that you see yourself as when it's not, reminded for you. Leave a comment below. Leave a like. Share and subscribe, all that stuff. Elle, thanks so much for coming on Generation Dan.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Where can people find and follow you and all that good stuff?
I have a website, lfaunt.com. I am LL on Instagram. Screw Facebook. I totally deleted it. It's for old people anyway.
100%.
And I'm still trying to remember my exact Blue Sky handle, but I'm quite active on Blue Sky. I am llfaunt.bluesky.social.
That's awesome.
Right. Follow the show at Generation Dan on also on Blue Sky. Instagram, and all those other places. You can follow me at Atlas Novak anywhere social medias are found. TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram. I nuked my Twitter from orbit, and YouTube. Although I'm the epileptic comic on there. Dino, how about you?
Right here, everyone. Dino the Genetic Marvel. I'm currently experimenting with planking. That's an interesting experience. I'm doing 60 seconds of planking every day, so I'm trying to make it longer. It's very tedious, and I think my camera timer is somehow using longer seconds than are prescribed in every other fashion because it is so damn long. But please follow. We have a bunch of shows tomorrow. We have Life of Giants. We are also looking at a during the day show with Marco covering the hijinks of the weekend and what's happened. We have on Thursdays we have mental health, where we actually have been starting talking with a few new guests where we're just going to give people are going to come on and explain their perspective on things, and of course Hammered and Cheese, where we cook the shit out of stuff and it ends up turning fantastic. And if you dare, like, we are on episode like 70 something, so like we are 4 seasons in, and Cole still hasn't chopped off his finger. But every time, it really looks like he's going to. So it is something entertaining to watch.
Also, this is like a small thing, but planking also sounds like a gas station drug. Just a little bit, right?
That's fair. That's so reasonable.
Yeah.
Anyways, follow us, everyone. We're here every week. And please, if you want us to shout you out, mention us. If you want us to make fun of you, someone you know, by all means, we're happy to do that too. Why? Because we are for sale. And feel free to send us super chats and everything. Anything else? I think that's it.
No,
I just want to say, okay, really quick, Dino, is that like a parental advisory explicit content sticker over there? That is peak Gen X, by the way. All of those and all of the
it was the thing where you were like, oh, that means I should buy this CD because it's cool.
Right.
It's got
it's going to be the best. It's 100%. That was the factual. I was like, you know what? If there's a warning on it, you can't blame me. That's how I was raised. Anyways. Have an enjoyable rest of your Sunday or Friday, whenever you're hearing this, and we will be back next time. Have a good night, guys.
Bye, folks.
Bye.